It's Harvey's Hot Takes with Bryan Hayes from TSN Radio in Toronto. Always great to chat with Bryan. The biggest game of the divisional round has to be Bills and Ravens. Feels like it should be the AFC Championship game in some ways. It's such a massive game for the divisional round. And then on the other side in the AFC, you have the Chiefs and the Texans. Chiefs starters haven't had to play since Christmas Day. They're favored by a touchdown, more than a touchdown, over the Texans. Hardly seems fair, does it, Bryan?
Listen, Jay, everyone knows the rules, right? When we kick off in September, it's very simple. If you want that number one seed, you got to win at least 15 ball games. I mean, that was very clear this year in the AFC. And who did it? The two-time Super Bowl champ Kansas City Chiefs. That includes them punting on Week 18. They didn't care at all about Week 18. They had already wrapped up that top seed. So I don't really want to hear it from people in Buffalo or Baltimore. You could have chased them down. You could have found a way to win more games. You couldn't do it. I think this is more about saluting the greatness of the Kansas City Chiefs because they've set themselves up so well. But I also don't look back on the wild card round as really anything but a tune-up for both Baltimore and Buffalo, Jay, because the Steelers they didn't test Baltimore at all, and the Broncos certainly didn't test the Bills. Those were basically walkthroughs for those two teams. So I don't think the fact that they played last week really factors into what we're going to see the rest of the way. I think Baltimore since camp in August, Buffalo since camp in August, this is what they've been waiting for. They knew there was a really good chance they were going to run into each other, and whoever was going to win it was going to find a way to try and beat the Chiefs. And let's not forget, the Kansas City Chiefs, this is what they had to do last year. They had to go into Buffalo, and they won. They had to go into Baltimore, and they won. Then they got to the Super Bowl, and they won. No one was, shedding tears for them, right? It just continues to be in front of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they continue to accomplish the goal every single year. So if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And for the Bills and the Ravens, it starts this week. And I will say there is one team with an advantage here, and that is Buffalo, because they won more than Baltimore during the regular season, and they have home field. So they've got to take advantage of it. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson looked exceptional last weekend. They've looked exceptional all year. They both are in great form. I'm talking about the Ravens and the Bills. Again, I don't care that they played last week. I think those games are irrelevant. I don't think they got banged up. I think everyone's out and they're all good. I think it's going to be a great, great game. But if you want to be the best, you got to win games like this. And there can't be any excuses. And guess what? It's not going to get any easier. As you know, Jay, whoever wins this game is very likely going to face the Chiefs because I think they're going to smoke Houston. And then you got to go into Arrowhead. That's going to be challenging. But it's the Super Bowl we're chasing here. This isn't a participation badge. It should be tough. It's been tough for the Chiefs in the past. It's going to be tough for the Bills and or the Ravens. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
I'm sorry, Bryan, but now I have to bring up your Green Bay Packers and the struggles of your quarterback, Mr. Jordan Love. In fact, I want to bring up a board and show you something here. After he signed that huge contract extension in the offseason, Love is tied for the second highest cap hit in the National Football League. This is the top 10 cap hits. Only 3 of the players making over $50 million a year are still in the playoffs. 2 names you don't see here, Bryan, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. I guess my question for you is, do teams need to take a harder line in terms of contract extensions with their starting quarterbacks?
They should, but they won't, because the whole game is set up for quarterbacking in the National Football League. I mean, that is basically another name for NFL, is simply quarterback, and every team in the league is desperate for it. And the reality of that board that you just showed is terrifying. It really is terrifying because a lot of those quarterbacks got paid and they had done nothing in terms of winning in the past. The guy at the top is the best example of that. Dak Prescott in the playoffs has been abysmal, and yet he's got a lot of talent, and the Cowboys looked at it and said, if we don't have him, we're in big trouble, so we better just give him the money. Same thing with Jordan Love. Jordan Love had one season, and a great playoff game against the Cowboys last year, a great 3 quarters in San Francisco last year, and then he had the team over the barrel. He says, I'm not showing up for camp, or I'm certainly not going to participate unless you pay me. And they paid him, and they did so because they're desperate. And what has become a reality in the NFL is that if you don't have one of those high-end quarterbacks who, like that board suggests, will actually take a discount, like Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes, like Lamar Jackson. If you don't have one of the best 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the league, you better have a rookie that's doing it on the cheap. You better have a Jaden Daniels. You better have a Brock Purdy up until this season. Those are the guys that can give you tons of value, and you can spread that money out, because if you're going to pay that kind of money to a quarterback and you know the second he signs it, you're likely not getting full value, what you're really what you're really saying to yourself is you're not going to win. And I think the Cowboys probably knew that with Dak Prescott. I think the Green Bay Packers are legitimately concerned about that when it comes to Jordan Love. You know that's the case with Tua in Miami. You know it's the case with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. We could go down the list and down the list and down the list. And it's so important to get that money right, because it's the biggest money in the game. And there is a difference between $50 million and $60 million. That's a great player. That's a great lineman. That could be a significant piece on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. And if you get it wrong, you're in big trouble. But to answer your original question, Jay, it's not going to stop. If anything, it's going to continue, and it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger and more bloated, because this whole league is about quarterbacking. If you don't have it, you can't win. If you don't have it, you're irrelevant. If you don't have it, if you're a GM and a coach, your owner's going to come down and say, what are we doing here? How am I going to sell tickets? How am I selling hope in my market? Quarterbacks know it. More importantly, their agents know it. So, yes, it is a misspend. It is a misread. It is a miscalculation. But what's crazy about this is the teams know it, and yet they still do it.
I might have saved the best for last, Brian, because it's time to talk about the big coaching news of the day. We've been talking about the Cowboys a lot. Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys are parting ways. They were unable to reach a new deal. McCarthy's deal expired following a 7-10 record this year. The 61-year-old, 49-35 in the regular season with Dallas, but the team had a 1-3 record in the playoffs under McCarthy. Should also mention that ESPN NFL insider extraordinaire Adam Schefter confirming on Monday night that Jerry Jones has spoken with Deion Sanders about the head coaching job. Wow! Brian and I are so excited about the potential of this actually happening. But my actual question for you, Brian, is does it even matter who coaches the Dallas Cowboys at this point, as long as Jerry Jones is still running the show?
It's completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. Doesn't mean it won't be a sideshow. It wouldn't be a lot of fun. If Prime gets down there, that would be a blast, and he has my full support. I'm sure he's waiting for it. I fully endorse the idea of Deion Sanders taking over as the head coach in Dallas, because I think the fireworks would be incredible and it would be incredibly dramatic. But the reality is it's completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter if it's Bill Belichick in his prime, if it's Vince Lombardi in his prime, Don Shula. It doesn't matter as long as Jerry Jones is still the owner and the guy with full autonomy, and the guy operating as if he knows what he's doing. And in reality, it's been 30 years without a Super Bowl down in Dallas, and every single year it becomes more and more clear Jerry Jones is more and more out of touch when it comes to actually putting a winner together. There's also a second element to this, and that's Dak Prescott's your quarterback, right? So you have Jerry Jones as your owner, and you have Dak Prescott as your quarterback, the highest paid quarterback in the league, as the board just showed a few moments ago. So whoever that coach is going to be, whether it's Deion Sanders, whether it's Ben Johnson, who knows who it could be in the future, there are bright lights and a lot of money that would come with it, and a lot of accolades if you found a way to win, because you would be doing so in the biggest football fishbowl there is. But I think it's impossible to win. I really think it's impossible to win, because Jerry Jones cannot get out of his own way. He will not stop meddling. He will not stop making picks, making decisions on free agents and signings and negotiations, and showing up to practice with his helicopter. I could go on and on and on as to why Jerry Jones is an absolute gong show of an owner. Thoroughly entertaining. In our business, we love guys like Jerry Jones. And again, the idea of Deion Sanders being there would be incredibly compelling. And I'm hoping it happens. But I think Deion would be set up to fail. So I think actually in a way it would be better for Deion probably to choose elsewhere, maybe even stay in college at this point. But Jerry Jones, he is win-proof long-term. He cannot do it. He won't do it. And again, I think a second element, and I can't stress this enough, is Dak Prescott is your quarterback, and it's a huge cap hit. And Dak has never proven at any point in his career that he can win. So Mike McCarthy, Deion Sanders, Bill Belichick, Don Shula, Vince Lombardi, doesn't matter as long as Jerry Jones is standing at the front of the line.